let me try to get her real quick.
That's all right. This number 312-626-6799 that we got. People could.
We're waiting for her. She's going to start right now.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to start from the beginning. Item number 1, consideration of minutes from the February 27th Capital Investment Committee meeting. Margaret made a first, and I will entertain the second.
Second.
All right, second by Bev. All in favor say aye.
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 Item number 2, consideration to grant water and sewer availability for Redemption City Church, map 080, parcel 04404.
So this is a sewer availability outside the city, within that boundary. They are asking for approval. We are recommending approval, and they have already agreed to extend the sewer to the end of the property to potentially serve others in the future.
All right,
I'd make a motion for approval.
I have a motion, I have a second.
Second,
Any discussion?
yes. I do.
Margaret?
All right. I'm not sure that I understand what they said about the development on the property, so it's not just for the Redemption City Church, it's for future development, is that what it said?
Yeah, they're bringing, so what they have agreed to bring the sewer line. They're going to,
Did you? I'm sorry. You're getting echoes?
From me?
Margaret.
Okay.
Is everybody muted?
Not me.
Everybody in this room needs to be muted except for the speaker. I think
Yep.
that'll work.
And you're muted, right? You should, they should, two of them should be able to go back and forth.
I'll mute.
At
Just make
first
sure.
I had muted.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Margaret.
so they're extending the sewer to their property and then all the way through their parcel to the end, so we can serve, we can have future connections. Typically what we require developers to do.
All right, but this is, they're not in the city limits.
Correct.
Well, when that future development comes, will they be annexed?
So,
Or are they just getting the go-ahead to develop?
no, this sewer availability is just for the church. But they have agreed, so what we also require developers, which is very similar to this, is to extend the sewer main to the end of their property in the event that we have future services that we want to connect, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Okay.
So there aren't future connections other than this, the Redemption Church.
But that will not happen until we decide to annex that.
Correct. Well, we have granted availability to residents outside the city that have not been annexed. So whether,
Well, for a reason, though. I mean, we don't just do it.
right, we typically would require them to sign an annexation agreement at some point in time.
And we would this property.
The Redemption Church, we are not going to. We haven't put that,
All right, but any future, see, I'm just concerned about
Sure.
what we're opening up.
okay?
If we're opening up the possibility that this will be developed without coming into the city just because, that's, we need to have something else. If we're sure that they want to come into the city before we let that land be developed.
Sure. So this is in the Clovercroft area, which is where the church is. So it's kind of in that large Maze Creek Basin, which is, I think, still under consideration for annexation.
I just don't want us to be sorry that we
Sure.
have opened up a can of worms. Okay.
We've got a question from Alderman Berger.
Yes, Bev?
Yes, okay. Margaret, yeah, I could have answered that for you too. Michelle, thank you. This is all in that farm area of Taproot Farms, but it's a separate, can you hear me?
Yes.
Margaret?
Kind of.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. This section where this church is building, wait a minute, looks like Michelle's speaking. Am I speaking over someone right now?
No.
Or am I okay?
You are not, the video is not in real time for some reason,
Okay,
so,
thank you, I didn't want to do
yep,
that.
audio's fine, you're good.
Okay, Margaret, I can answer that too as well with Michelle. That's part of that Taproot Farm area. And, but this is a separate parcel that was, purchased from Mr. Ingram. And, at the time, if any of that becomes, annexed into the city, the church would be willing to annex into the city as well. I just want to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, Dana?
Have to unmute.
Aye.
All right, item number 3, consideration to grant water and sewer availability for 1363 Caroline Circle.
This is in the Red Wings Meadows subdivision, so
The
outside the
city.
city.
Or outside the city and the county, so we are recommending approval. The homeowner wants it. The interceptor, the 5 Mile Creek interceptor runs behind her house in the common area. So I'm assuming when the interceptor was, put in the ground that we intended for her to, for those residents to connect to the sewer once they're septic, once they deem necessary.
And is that the dotted line that you see on this attachment map? The interceptor that you're talking about?
I believe so. I can pull that up right now.
Sorry.
It's all right.
So there is a reason for this. I mean, we're not just granting it. There's a reason because it's coming through their property, or it's really not coming through their property, though.
Yeah, so it is, I'm gonna pull up the map right now. That may help clear up some, and then I'll try and share my screen. So can I just do the click share then? Angie, will that work?
Yes, mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is her residence right here, if you can see. And then this is the 5 Mile Creek interceptor that's running in the common area behind her house.
Right.
So I believe the intention of when the sewer was constructed for all of those residents in Red Wing Meadows to connect.
All right, so that is, so all of those would be able to hook on to
Yes.
our city, even though they're out of the city limits?
Yes, correct.
Because that line is coming behind their property.
Right, the line was laid before I was here, but I assume that was the reason, yes.
Okay. I just don't want to see us annexing, I mean, I don't want to see us granting sewer to everybody just because they want it. And then they don't have to, they're not responsible for taxes or anything else in the city. You see
Sure.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure.
And
And
so
so, and
when-
you know, it is, as septic systems, seem to be, you know, failing or in this neighborhood as well. I mean, we see for Henpeck Interceptor quite a bit. You know, that those people are applying for availability and, you know, we're recommending approval for those things, as they kind of work through the process.
Okay.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
I have a first.
Second.
All right, second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, item number passes unanimously. Item number 4, consideration to grant sewer availability for Prince Machinery and Supplies Incorporated, located at 1655 Mallory Lane.
So this is outside the city as well. This is located actually in Brentwood on North Mallory Lane above, on Mallory above Moores, north of Moores. The sewer is already in the street. They're just gonna connect to it underneath the road. So they're gonna extend the sewer line underneath the road. We're recommending approval, and the resident or the business owner is asking for approval. Their septic tank is failing, which is causing some odors for the neighbors that are complaining. So that's why they brought this today.
All right. Now, are we getting into Brentwood when we make this available to them?
So the sewer line is already there. I'm pulling up the map right now. We already serve portions of Brentwood as well. That flows into our sewer system.
Bless you.
Okay, so here you can see, this is Moores, kind of running down here. This is Mallory. This is kind of that that cul-de-sac, if you, the gas station is at the corner down here.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see this green line is the sewer line that's running in the middle of the road. And so this resident, the Prince Machinery and Supplies, is just gonna connect to the sewer that's on the other side of the road.
But all of those.
Hold on
other
one second, Bev.
Excuse me, all those other properties, they would be, if they wanted to come and just get sewer from us, they could do it?
There are some of them that already do on that line.
Margaret, are you through?
Yeah, I'm
Bev?
baffled by this, yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, you all went off the screen, I've lost y'all, so I had to dial in by my phone. I am now, so what number are we on? Are we still on 3?
No, we're on item number 4.
Okay, what happened to 3? I never got to vote on it, I don't know what happened. Because I don't know if you all can see, when I got disconnected and I wasn't even there to vote or say anything, so.
I apologize, it sounded like we had unanimous approval on 3.
No, I'm not even on. You can't see me on video and you can't hear me on video. You can't, so I'm dialed up through the phone. So what happened on 3? A unanimous approval for what?
Caroline
What
Avenue.
option?
To grant water and sewer availability for 1363 Caroline Circle.
That is not number 3. That is number 6.
No, you refresh your agenda in your Granicus.
Okay, thank you. I will do that. 1 second. Sorry about this, but.
No, I had the same problem earlier.
Why you all went off. Okay, so we are on item what number now?
We are item number 4, sewer availability for Prince Machinery and Supplies.
On Murfreesboro Road?
No, refresh your Granicus, it's on Mallory Lane.
I just refreshed it. Oh, yeah, on Mallory. Oh, okay, hold on a minute.
Yeah, I get it, I had the same problem earlier.
Technology is taking, okay. All right, so Caroline Circle, what happened to that? Was unanimous?
Yes, ma'am, assuming I thought I heard you say yes, so I apologize.
Yes, I'm voting for that, absolutely. Number 4, we are on that. Okay, I'm good with that. Where are we on that? Have we taken a vote yet, or are we still discussing?
No, I have it first from, where am I, Angie? Margaret, so Margaret gave me my first, I'm looking for a second. On item number 4. Anybody gonna give me a second on item number 4?
I'll give you a second.
All right, any discussion? Any additional discussion, I should say. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, passes unanimously. Item number 5, consideration to grant water
availability for Grace Center Church located
2420 Bethlehem Loop Road.
So this customer they're outside the city. They already use our water service. They're just requesting an irrigation meter. This is solely this availability is for an irrigation meter. We're recommending approval, and the resident is asking for approval.
I'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Is that Dana with a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
I would like to ask a question.
Go ahead, Margaret.
Michelle, have we just decided to give everybody, the sewer availability that wants it, no matter where they are?
Oh, specifically
Well,
this.
I'm just bringing it in here, but so far, we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, this is the 4th one we've done just in the last 5 minutes.
Right.
So, you know, is this something new that we're doing?
No, I mean, we don't typically, I don't think we typically make the suggestion just a blanket give sewer availability. I mean, we look at it, it happened to be that this agenda fell to where we agree with most of these applications for availability. The vetting process that we have, they come in, when we get a request for approval, they come in and we evaluate them based on our capacity model, so where they are in the city, and then, you know, we put them in the model and we vet them that way if it's a possibility for us to approve it. So, you
I
know,
don't
we've
think
had
we're
multiple ones in the.
advertising.
I'm sorry?
I don't think we're advertising that,
Well, I don't think this is something you have to advertise. I think people just want it.
right.
And without having to come into the city and pay city taxes. So I'd like for us to be really, really careful about this and not just let it slip through so that everybody who wants it gets it.
Sure. We typically look pretty closely at them to make sure that they make sense. We've
It's fine.
This one's also in our utility district as well. They have, that we provide water service to them already. They're just asking for an irrigation meter.
All right, thank you.
All right, we have a first and a second, correct, Angie?
Correct.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we are going to move item number 9 up to item number 6 right now. So, consideration of City of Franklin contract number 2020-0067 for professional services to provide construction, engineering, and inspection, CEI services, to the Spencer Creek at Franklin Road Sanitary Sewer Rehabilitation Construction Project.
So this is, we advertised this sewer rehabilitation project today. And so it'll be advertised for a month. We'll have a pre-construction meeting during this time. And it's for the sewer from the Aspen Grove interceptors, which is kind of south of the Cool Springs area, south of Franklin Road, underneath the railroad tracks, underneath Franklin Road, and then connecting downstream of the First United Methodist Church property. So we're gonna rehabilitate that sewer in there, replace it. There's some hydraulic restrictions that we think we can provide some more capacity by replacing the line. So increase the capacity, because that's kind of an area where we anticipate a lot of growth. So this is the first of the projects for Spencer Creek that we intend on doing. So this contract. So this is for the construction inspection services for that project. So because it is crossing underneath the railroad tracks and boring underneath Franklin Road, and then crossing underneath Spencer Creek, we want to have inspection services during this time.
Absolutely. I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, have a first, second, any discussion? All right, no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 What was that, Dana?
Me.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're gonna start back at item number 6, discussion concerning Morningside Detention Pond.
All right, stand by while I unmute everything. Let's see here. Okay, so if you'll remember at our last Capital Investment Committee meeting, we had a request from a resident of Morningside to see if the city would be willing to take on maintenance and repair of an existing detention pond. This detention pond is a little bit unique in the fact that it really serves Brentwood Point Phase 3, but is platted on Morningside and was actually built with the Morningside developer. And the original developer for both Brentwood Point and Morningside was the same developer.
That's what I
And
thought.
so they worked out this agreement, and for whatever reason, and we wouldn't do this today, but it was done back in the day, the detention pond on the Morningside section is responsible for the maintenance of what is now Brentwood Point's, or what is serving really Brentwood Point. So last meeting, the way we left this was staff was asked to go back look at the pond again and figure out what it would take to fix the pond. We've been to this pond numerous times. Derek McCord and Steve Grubb from our street department went out and looked at it. What they have relayed to me is that there is a spring that is coming up through the bottom of this pond. And springs come up different times of the year. And so it very well could have been when we accepted this pond back in the day. I've been told from inspectors that were there that it was in good condition. Now, that doesn't mean a spring doesn't come up 2 weeks later, a year later, or a few months later. But that spring has come up, and it has created maintenance issues associated with that pond. I will say that historically, the city of Franklin has not maintained any private ponds, and I state that we have taken on regional ponds. And when I say regional ponds, some examples of that would be like Liberty Lake, Liberty Hills Pond, and Jackson Lake. Those are two examples of ponds that we have maintained in the past. We're seeking direction from the board. I did get a chance to speak with the HOA president. I believe that he may want to make some comments associated with that, but he is on the line and is aware of the meeting. And our recommendation is to the city not do maintenance, that this is all maintenance that should be done by the HOA. Should the board wish to pursue maintenance, our recommendation would be to not pursue any maintenance until a new maintenance agreement is signed, that long-term maintenance responsibility gets put on the HOA, similar to the way we operate in every other HOA throughout the city. The estimate from our street department to make these type of repairs, to bring it into easier to maintain, to bring it into more compliance, was estimated to be around $44,000. And I know the HOA also had estimates that were generally within that ballpark. And I believe they were just over about $50,000. So with that said, we seek your direction and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Let's go ahead and get motions out of the way.
Well,
I move that we,
what kind of motion do you want?
I move that we make the repairs that are necessary now and enter into a maintenance agreement to provide for future maintenance with the HOA.
Second.
All right, discussion on this. Dana, do you have anything to say first?
I'd like to get what we think it's $48,000 to get it up to functioning the way it ought to have been functioning. Is that correct?
I heard 44.
$44,000, yes, sir.
Okay, in that case, I think we ought to get it up to that and then turn it over to the HOA for maintenance, regular and routine maintenance. I'd also like
Is
to.
there something you wanted to say as well?
I agree with that.
Perhaps we
I'm sorry?
could get the HOA in on the comments.
Okay, now we had somebody who wanted to speak on this. Okay, if y'all can go ahead and be unmuted. State your name and your address, please.
Okay, my name is Arthur Young, and I live at 7034 Sunrise Circle, Franklin,
Thank you,
Tennessee.
sir.
And I am president of the Morningside, Board of Managers. And we feel strongly that the city of Franklin should help us, with the detention pond issue for several reasons. We need a little help. We've experienced many drainage projects, that should not have been approved and have impacted our community negatively over the years. We've covered the expense of correcting all of these problems. This retention pond was not created properly when it was originally built, and we have an email from Jimmy Wiseman that states that fact. Morningside 2 does not need this detention pond, and it was created to help the view at Brentwood Point with its stormwater runoff. 95% of the water that goes into this pond comes from the view. It should have been set up with the view being responsible for 100% of the maintenance. And I couldn't hear exactly what Paul was saying as far as his recommendation. I think he recommended that the city not do this. But Dana, I couldn't hear your response to that, in terms of the motion,
The motion on the floor right now is to have the city make the $44,000 worth of repairs and then enter into a maintenance agreement with the HOA for the HOA to do ongoing
thank
and
you very
regular
much.
maintenance and repair.
Okay, and as y'all know, George Hatfield addressed the CIC committee at the meeting last month. And if you have time and we can do it, I'd like for George, to just say a few words today. Will that be okay?
Yes, sir, that's fine.
Okay.
Oh, they're at the same place? That makes things easier.
My name is George Hadfield. I live at 7095 Sunrise Circle for the past 15 years. For 55 years, I've been an investor, owner, or developer of property of either new or used new apartments. I'm aware of why plans are submitted to a city for the grading and drainage and survey requirements. The Y plans for new homes or apartments is required prior to construction and upfront fees required. I also understand why a bond might be needed prior to construction and what must be done for the bond to be released. The city of Franklin approved areas of Morningside 2 property that did not meet required standards. The developer was allowed to move forward in its building and then was able to sign off from the city with areas incomplete on what the plans call for. The 279 residents of Morningside have already paid out approximately $200,000 to correct major drainage problems, as 4 buildings were built below ground level, not allowing the surface water to flow off. The redoing of a retention wall and are just completing another retaining wall to carry the gutter drainage from the view out to the pond in question. As Arthur said, this pond we have on our property does not benefit Morningside 2. It was built for the sole purpose of a developer, so he could move the street and gutter water away from the view for the continued construction of his area. The pond in question, the plan submitted by the developer called for this to be a detention, not a retention pond. Had the city correctly reviewed our area and plans prior to their signing off of our project, the pond would have been corrected. The road between Morningside 2 and the view would have been paved, and the retaining wall we just completed, which cost us $20,000, would have been built by the developer. We as residents in Morningside 2 do not feel our request to correct our pond breaks any private property rules the city has. We are only asking this city to correct a pond area that should have been built as the plans called for prior to the city signing off from the developer. We have a major crack under the culvert. We do know that the water flows in under there. And I got that re-verified again over the weekend. And we sincerely hope that you and the mayor and all other city officials will approve our request. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We have a first and a second. I do have one question. I think it may have been brought up before. Is this work that we can do in-house or not necessarily?
This is work that we can do in-house, and since we don't necessarily have an agreement today in front of you or a resolution, my recommendation would be to direct staff to simply bring back a agreement that outlines that we'll make these repairs if that's the committee's direction, and that it will also outline the maintenance agreement as well.
And that would come back to this group before it goes anywhere else?
We could take it to work session, or we could take it to this group. I'll leave that to you.
Do we need to make an amendment on that to make it go? No? Okay.
Well, do you want a motion?
We have a motion in a second.
Oh, okay.
We do. I know it gets confusing when you're not in the same room. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries unanimously.
Wait, Bev has a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I've been hitting raise my hand, but I guess people aren't seeing it, so.
No, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Okay, and I hesitate to unmute and just talk over, but I guess they're not seeing my raise the hand thing. So, question, Dana, can you verify when you were talking or clarify when you're talking about them taking over the maintenance? Are you talking about Morningside? Is the View have any responsibility with this maintenance whatsoever? Someone can speak to that.
For whatever reason, Brentwood Point for fact should have the maintenance of this because it serves their pond. But for whatever reason, the developer recorded the maintenance against Morningside. There is no mechanism for us to go back to Brentwood Point unless we simply ask them to kindly help and contribute to the long-term maintenance of operation. The existing maintenance agreement that we have recorded against the property is 100% on Morningside today.
Is there any way that we can have them split that? I mean, we'd have to ask, but I mean, is there any way to do that?
We could certainly ask. I don't know if there's a legal mechanism that forces it because there's no recorded document that we would typically have against Brentwood Point, and there's no requirement that I can find that allows us to enforce that.
Yeah, so then why would they do it? They wouldn't unless they were.
But we will certainly ask. I think it's the right thing to do.
I think so too. I think we need to pursue that at least. All right, thank you.
Margaret, yes?
Would it be at all possible for us to ask Brentwood Point to put in their own pond?
Brentwood Point, this pond was put in to serve them. It just was put on an adjacent property because it was two adjacent property owners that had, that was developing two separate developments. And so it really serves Brentwood Point. It just happens to be on Morningside property, and the maintenance happens to be on Morningside, which was probably an oversight at the time, but would not happen today.
All right, Bev, I understand you have something to say?
Beth?
Yeah, just that, Paul, you're going to at least pursue asking. I would think we should at least do that. That's all I have to say.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I believe that we voted and it passed
Am
unanimously.
I correct there?
You didn't actually fit.
Oh, okay, so now we will vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
All right, I think we're good. All right, item number 7, discussion concerning the Jordan Branch Stream Restoration Project located in the Cool Springs East subdivision.
So at the last board meeting, we were asked to bring this item back. At this point in time, the HOA has not been able to meet to make us an offer as to what they're willing to do to contribute to the project. And as a reminder, this is a wet weather conveyance that serves a broader area that we had funded at one point. However, the tree removal, we ran into a lot of issues with that. And so our recommendation is to simply withdraw this and bring it back at a point in time in which the HOA is ready to participate in the meeting and share with the committee as to what they're willing to do with the project.
Do we need to make a motion to withdraw, or is that something that's done internally?
I think we can just request that it withdraw, is my understanding.
Okay, Bev?
Yeah, Brian Dixon's on here, and I do believe, Paul, they do have the numbers. So, can we hear from Brian?
Absolutely.
Because before we know how to make a motion, we need to know from them that they have the numbers. So Brian is on here. You all have to make that happen.
Hi, this is Brian Dixon, 205 Bateman Avenue in Franklin. And I'm the president of the HOA board for Cool Springs East. And the board has discussed this remotely. And the number we've come up with is $100,000. We have to go ahead and we still need to figure out exactly how we would fund that, but that's the number that we've initially come up with.
Okay, thank you for that. I will say that prior to this meeting,
Not heard anything that we were aware of. So I don't know that we can vote on an audible, if you will. I think that we need to have something in writing so that we have a paper trail so that we're holding everybody accountable. So I would make the suggestion that we not withdraw, but let's defer this to the next meeting. And if you could just make sure, Mr. Dixon, that we have all of your collateral and paperwork in hand so that follows along with the item on the agenda.
Was this paperwork not submitted, Brian?
No. This, no, we did not. We have not submitted this to anyone yet.
Okay, did you just get these numbers?
Yes.
Okay. Here we go. Delaying again, but I understand what you're asking, Brandy. And Brian, you're saying the 100,000 number is what the HOA could possibly carry, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So I will tell you, obviously I can't make the motion.
Next CIC meeting is April 23rd. So if we can designate that date, if you so choose to put it out a month, that's the date that we need to attach to the motion.
All right, I'm comfortable with that. Brian, if you will make sure that Paul gets those numbers and that you all submit that, I will make a motion to defer to, what was that, April what?
23rd.
23rd. Come back to CIP with it, then going straight to the very next BOMA meeting after that, if possible.
All right. I need a second.
Second?
Second from Margaret. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Roll call, remember, roll call.
Okay, I am been asked to do a roll call, so I'm gonna do it singularly. So Margaret, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
And Bev?
Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously. Item number 8, presentation on Fieldstone Farm sidewalks.
Okay, so at the last Capital Investment Committee meeting, we were directed to go back and evaluate the bids as provided by Fieldstone Farms Homeowner Association. We have done that. There are definitely some items missing. I don't think there are any deal killers. There's small things like curb removal and repaving of asphalt pavement, where we have to remove some median noses. I did have a chance to speak with Mr. Thomas about it, and our recommendation is to allow us to go back and work out a funding agreement. We'd also like to have our street department inspectors, Derek McCord and Doug Pratt, walk the site with May Construction to identify some items that are missing from that bid, to hone in on that cost and make sure that we're on the same page. And we'll, if the committee would like us to, we'll bring this item back in the form of an agreement for a formal vote to move forward with this, and it'll also give us a chance to look at our ability to provide the funding.
Yes, Dana?
I move that we authorize staff to take the next step, as Mr. Holzen just indicated, put this on the next CIC meeting with an intent to vote on a specific proposal.
All right, next CIC being
April 23rd. So, yes, Margaret, I need a second first before we discuss.
Oh, I'll give a second.
All right, second from Margaret.
I certainly understand how the needs change through the years, and I certainly want to consider the partnership with Fieldstone Farms. If these additions can be made without jeopardizing other sidewalk projects, such as Lewisburg Avenue and Eddie Lane down the road, I certainly will support it.
We do
Yeah.
have the Fieldstone.
I know they're different. I know we've already approved the funding for Lewisburg Avenue. And we haven't looked at Eddie Lane yet, but these things are on the books, and this was a choice early on for Fieldstone Farms, and I certainly want them to have their sidewalks because they need it.
So we do have some funding available that you all have approved annually to provide projects like this. This is a easy project because it's already curb and guttered. You're not getting into the utilities. Of course, we want an opportunity to hone in on that quote and make sure that those numbers all work, and that's why we want to bring it back in the form of an agreement. But it will not hinder or set us back on any of the other capital projects that the board has funded. And I know we want to have this back on the next CIC meeting. We will strive to do that. It'll more than likely be in a draft format, so I'm just warning you.
Right.
That there's going to be a time constraint to get the HOA board to sign off on that agreement. We also need to run through our internal processes with city management and our law department, but I think it's very achievable to bring it back in a draft format, just for further discussion and to try to keep this moving forward.
Great. Bev, did you have something to say? Bev, did you want to say anything?
No, I did not. Thank you.
Okay, I do believe we have somebody that wants to speak to this item.
He's there. Yep, he can do it.
I don't know who I'm speaking to. Can you hear us?
Sure, yes.
Oh,
ma'am.
it's Nate.
Dan,
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
go
I
right
miss,
ahead, sir.
thank you. I miss Alderman Martin's, the bulk of her comments, but just for the record there, but this is Dan Thomas, 235 Winter Hill Road, Franklin, Fieldstone Farms resident. And again, the appointed liaison with the city of Franklin by the Fieldstone Farms HOA Board of Directors. And bottom line, this sounds very good. We appreciate the support thus far. I personally would like to be present if possible for this walkthrough. I don't know if it's possible, but I would like to be there if we can, just to make sure we are all communicating on the same page as to what this project, our desires are. They match up with the write-ups that we have, and the interpretation is just as you guys see it. So if that's possible, that would be pleasing.
Yeah, and
to
I'm not
us.
sure if you could see, but Paul agreed to that. So Paul Holsam said that would be fine. I do believe that Eric Stuckey wants to make
As well.
Thank you. Just a quick comment to add on to what Margaret was asking about, Alderman Martin was asking about. Just to be clear, Lewisburg is funded, and the Eddie Lane project is significantly out of the range of sidewalk gap. It is a much more expensive, much more involved project. The Fieldstone project can fit within our sidewalk gap program. So they're just different. They're both sidewalks, but they're different because of the magnitude of the project. So they're not really competing against each other as a priority. They're just in different categories because of the scope and cost. So I just want to be clear on that. Thank you.
Margaret, do you understand that? Not understand. Did you hear him? Okay, great. Mr. Thomas, do you have anything else?
Yeah, just my final comment. Thank you. And that is that, I got an update from Paul. We spoke about, I think last Friday. And so I know he's been working with May Construction, Mark Young there. And since then, the board of directors here at Fieldstone Farms has convened and understands fully that there could be some additional costs, the ones that Paul referenced. So we're prepared for that. We want to do this all jointly with the city, and we continue to be very excited. So thank you.
Well, I, for one, love projects where we can do this.
Especially when it's a 50-50 partnership. So very wise move on your behalf, and I hope it's a trickle down throughout the community. So we do have a first and a second, is that correct? Okay, I'm gonna do one by one. All in favor, Margaret, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Dana? And Bev?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. All right. Item number 10, consideration of draft resolution 2020-25, a resolution awarding the construction contract, City of Franklin contract 2020-0005 for the Watson Branch Culvert Rehabilitation to Chase Reline Inc. in the amount of $500,000 $539,266, and establishing a project contingency of $100,000. My apologies.
So this was one of the board's funded projects, and we're excited. We had to acquire about 3 or 4 easements on the job, and it's an existing, I believe it's a 72-inch corrugated metal pipe that has the bottom totally missing from it and rusted out. And we've come up with an innovative solution to line the pipe, and it prevents us from disrupting about 4 residents' property. And so unfortunately, we only had one bidder, but I will say that we have reviewed those bids, and the numbers are good. It's in line with what we would expect. It is a very specialized type of project, so it doesn't surprise me that we only had one bidder, but the numbers are all really good, and we're happy with it. It was budgeted at around $530,000, so it is a little bit over budget. We are asking for $100,000 in contingency for unseen conditions that may come up. We're not anticipating a lot on this job, but wanted to have that money available in the event that there is some type of change order that's needed on the job to simply keep the project moving. And we're happy to answer any questions that you have.
I have a couple questions, but, Brandon, do you want a motion first?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry?
You want a motion first, or?
Yes, please.
I'm gonna let that to someone else at this time.
Oh, I'm waiting for a motion.
Second.
Second from Dana. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, Paul, is this coming under our stormwater budget, under our stormwater CIC projects?
Yes, ma'am, it comes out of stormwater.
Yeah, and what number, I was looking at the log on that, what number was Watson Branch?
And I do not have that.
Yeah,
in
there's
this-
no map.
I remember when we discussed this item, this was one of those maintenance issues that needs corrected just due to the condition of that culvert. And being that it's in an existing subdivision with a roadway on top of it and a transformer sitting on top of it. And that was one of the reasons that it made it into that funding category, but I don't know the exact number of which it ranked in the stormwater budget.
Where's the exact location of this again?
It's within the subdivision.
Maplewood.
And it's
okay.
actually a 72-inch corrugated pipe. It drains the entire lake.
Yeah. I'm looking at the CIP, I do not see it, and that's why I was asking. I mean, if you go back to, item number 7, you have a list there of all the projects under one of the attachments, but I can't see,
It's in that attachment. If you bear with me, I'll try to pull it.
so, my question is, we're funding this, but we went out to bid already for Jordan Branch, and yet we're considering funding this over Jordan Branch when, yeah, I know CIP changed a bit, but we brought Jordan Branch to the board, and then we agreed to go out to bid, and to, we wouldn't be going out to bid if we weren't looking to do the job. And then we went out to bid for Jordan, and then we didn't get the bids, and you all know the rest of the story there. So my question on this is why we are pursuing this, where it ranks, because I don't see the ranking and where it ranks, and why we would bid this. I would have a hard time bidding this over Jordan Branch. That would be for
Can I
sure.
address that, please? Hey,
I'm sorry, was that
Alderman,
Eric? Of course you may.
this is a top 10 rated project by the board. When you did your CIP, this was we actually had 11 that fit in that top 10 ranking because we had a tie, but this was in your top 10 ranked projects. And that's why it moved forward.
I'm looking at the top, but I don't see it, and that's
Paul,
why.
can you show
This
her?
is the Maplewood store.
Oh, the Maplewood store. Okay, that's not the wording on the item.
That's what this project is.
Yeah, well, we're talking Jordan Branch, and I'm looking for Jordan Branch. and What it's
This
saying
isn't
is
Jordan
Maplewood. Okay, so it's saying Maplewood. All right,
Is that correct, Paul?
Maplewood is number 15. All right,
It was due to the critical nature of the project that it got funded, but 15 and then number 23 in that ranking is where they stand.
Bev, can you see that or understand what he said?
yeah, I see number 15. I don't know what you're saying with 23. I see that it's a Greenway. By some.
It's on a different ranking.
Of the spreadsheet, we did it in 2 different ways. And so one, the non-weighted was 15, the weighted was 23.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Did we have a motion?
We went out to bid on a project last year. CIP gets rearranged and then another one jumps ahead, and I understand what Eric said. It is number 15. Okay.
All right, any more discussion?
All right, Margaret, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Dana? Bev?
No.
No. Motion carries 2-1. All right, item number 11, consideration of a draft project partnership agreement between the Department of the Army and the City of Franklin, Tennessee for the Harpeth River Flood Risk Management Project, which is also known as the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Home Raising Program.
So we're asking to withdraw this item and we'll bring it back. We would like to have some more time to meet with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to better understand the process following this. But essentially what this agreement is that next step into finalizing the construction of the home raising projects. But again, we would like to withdraw this item. Talking with administration, we need to better understand some of the next steps associated with the Army Corps and when funding becomes due and how that process works. And so we'll bring this forward as soon as we possibly can. And I apologize that we put it on the agenda today.
Okay, so there's no need to pull it off, okay, formally. Also, I'd like to backtrack on item number 10. The vote count is 3-1 with myself being 4 as well. All right, item number 12 is capital projects dashboard. So if there's anything, Paul, in light of our novice operation here, I would just ask if any of the board has any particular project they would like to talk about. Otherwise, I think we probably stop the bleeding here. Dana, do you have a project? Excuse me?
He said no.
Margaret, I know you do.
Yes, I'd
Okay.
like to know where the light is, the traffic signal. Where are we on that?
Which traffic signal?
So we're,
Which one? You know,
what
West Haven.
we're talking about is the West Haven traffic signal.
Yes, West
Let me
Haven.
pull back up the dashboard. And where we're at with it today is we have ordered materials. There is a large delay on material orders when you're talking about signal equipment. And so the contractor is ready to proceed. It's been awarded, but until those materials come in, it's difficult for us to fully start the project.
When you say materials, do you mean the lights and the poles themselves?
Yes, ma'am, the mast arms is what takes a long time to get in, and that's what we're currently waiting on. As soon as we receive those items, we issue a notice to proceed to start construction, and that's when their time clock starts to complete the job.
When was that ordered?
It was ordered immediately after the bid was awarded by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. It can take 4 to 6 months to get that type of equipment in. The other thing we talked about pre-ordering it, and I'm glad that we didn't, is we also go out there and stake the poles in the field to make sure that there's not utility conflicts. And so we've already done that to verify that there are no utility issues with it. There were 2 utility issues that didn't get picked up or were picked up incorrectly on a survey based on utility locates that were performed. And so we have adjusted the pole lengths and location, and they are on order now. And I'm sorry I don't have an exact date, but I'd be happy to send that to Eric to send out an e-brief as to when we anticipate the date of arrival.
That's good. When I looked it up on something here, obviously I didn't know where to look. It said it was in design, and surely it's not in design.
No, you've already awarded the construction. We're just waiting on materials to start.
Okay.
The alternative would have been to go out there, start construction, totally rip up the street, and then the project gets sat on hold for 4 or 5 months. And we didn't want to do that to the residents of West Haven.
Yes.
With that type of a mess.
And I appreciate that. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
All right.
Sorry, Angie.
Any other projects, Margaret, for you?
No.
All right, Bev, is there a project that you'd like to discuss?
Hold on, sorry.
Quick overview about when the roundabout improvements are going to be finished. Yeah, what about the landscaping issue over there? And then just give me a quick where we are with phase 4 with McEwen.
Okay, so with the roundabout, right now, we're in the final stages. The contractor has told us the last 2 weeks that he'd be done in 2 weeks, so I know they're getting really close to being done. They are well into liquidated damages, and so we'll be bringing those forward for the board to consider at the completion of the project. But they are trying to wrap that project up now, and again, the contractor keeps saying 2 weeks, so we anticipate mid-April, assuming we have good weather, to try to wrap that project up. Now on McEwen Phase 4, as you know, we've started to do appraisals. Our appraiser has finished his first appraisal, and he's working on numerous other ones, and our review appraiser right now is reviewing those, and we are preparing to make offers the second we get those. We also made a resubmittal to TDOT today of what TDOT considers the preliminary plans, but they're actually, to us, they're 100% finalized plans, ready for bid, minus any comments that we receive during that TDOT review process. And so those were resubmitted today. Hopefully within the next 6 months, TDOT will authorize us to begin the right-of-way acquisition. However, I will tell you that we are doing that at risk, and we've gotten approval from TDOT to do that at risk. And so we know what we're doing. We've done this many times on federal projects, and we've learned from some of those projects. And so as soon as those appraisals start coming in, we're going to start moving on those offers. There's around 19 tracks that we have to do acquisitions on, and it will take the appraiser around 6 months to get through that. And so as we get them in, we'll be making offers, hopefully settling the majority of those like we typically do. The ones that we are unable to settle, we will move into condemnation fairly quickly. But we do have to be cautious and ensure that we do this by the books per the federal guidelines, and that's what we are working on. Happy to answer any questions.
When you say 6 months to get through it, are you meaning 6 months to get through making the offers after the appraisals?
Thank you for clarifying that. It would be about, our appraisers are estimated to finish up the appraisals within the next 6 months. So with that, we still have to make offers. It would easily be another 4 months of us making offers and trying to settle those. We would also have a condemnation period as well to provide to our law department enough time to update appraisals and file the necessary court documentation to obtain the orders of possession. And so we're still at least a year, at a minimum a year, out from being able to have the majority of this right away settled. And then once we finally get it settled, there's still a time frame in which we have to go back to TDOT to get their concurrence on the right of way and get a right of way certification. Also get final plans approved by TDOT, and we also have permits to obtain and to include CSX. But again, we are working on all that continuously and paralleling these timeframes as much as possible to expedite this project as much as we possibly can.
Two quick comments. So you did say that even as some of these appraisals come in, we have the ability and we will be doing some of the offers during that time, correct?
Yes, ma'am. We will be doing it as soon as we get them.
And one other question. When all these appraisals come in and we're making the offers and everything, if say there's 1, 2, 3 properties that are not accepting the appraisals and we have to go to condemnation, I was understanding years ago that we, even though this is going to happen, we could still move ahead. Is that the case, or are we at a dead stop if we have to go to any condemnations? Can you clarify that?
So generally speaking, when we're going through the condemnation process, we are typically very, very successful at getting the orders of possessions quickly. On occasion, they get challenged, but even when they do get challenged, almost every single time the judge awards us the order of possession because it's for a public project. And so condemnation cases could drag out for an extremely long time, but as soon as we get that order of possession, we have the ability to get approval from TDOT and continue forward with our project. And so we just got to make sure we do that through TDOT's standard process.
All right, thank you very much.
Anybody else have any questions or comments on projects? All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
I have Mark, second from Dana. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.